right, let's look at our new vocabulary words for this week. First word, dignified. Dignified. What do you think dignified means? Don't need to write anything down yet. We're just watching. What? Dignity. Okay. What does that mean? If you are dignified, you act in a way that is formal, calm, and proper. He's dignified. It's very formal. Next word. Stunned. What does stunned mean, Jody? Jody, you need to go to Miss Court. Push your chair under the correct one, please, because it's fire hazard. All right. What is it, Christopher? Shocked. Somebody is stunned. They are shocked or amazed by something. Stunned. Put your mask on. No, he doesn't go. All right, next word. Polished. Something that is polished could be shiny. Nathan, put your book up. That's cheating. Shiny, well, what is... Okay, well, what does polished mean? Put your mask on correctly. Okay, it can be shiny, but in this text, it's an adjective. So it says a performance that is polished, it's given with great skill and no mistakes. So that's a different type of polished. Regretted. Regretted. Christopher.
You do something bad and you feel bad.
You feel bad about it. If you regretted something, you felt sorry about it and wished you hadn't done it. Next word, hilarious. Hilarious. Come on, funny. Something that is hilarious. It's very funny. Very funny. Very funny. Not just funny, very funny. All right, next word, observant. Observant. Gabby?
That you're like aware and looking at things.
You're aware. If you are observant, you see or notice more details than other people. Observant. If I'm very observant of who's walking around in my classroom that shouldn't be. Next word. Flattered. 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 If I say, my dad was surprised and flattered by the special Father's Day card I made for him. Flattered. Charles?
They're surprised about what someone gives you.
Okay. If I said, I feel flattered to be your teacher, I feel what? Happy or not mad. Why would I be mad if I'm flattered? If I'm flattered, if I'm flattered, it means if you're honored or you feel honored or special. You feel honored or special.
How is that such a hard
And then the last one, trampled. Trampled. Charles.
all crumbled up?
All crumbled up. That would be crumbled. This is trampled. Nathan? Or like, here we go. Here's an example. Mufasa. No, was it Mufasa? Was it Mufasa? Mufasa? No, it wasn't Mufasa. It was Simba's father was trampled by the herd of elk. Trampled. It wasn't Mufasa? I can't remember.
It was Scar.
Scar was the one that let him go so he could be trampled. It was Mufasa. So Mufasa was trampled by the stampede of elk. What does trampled mean, Nathan?
Stampede of leaves.
Okay, well what does trampled mean? Christopher?
He fell down.
Huh?
He fell down.
Okay, not really falling down. It means if somebody, okay, so say we're all trying to push through that door all at the same time, one person falls and they get trampled over, they're being stepped on and damaged or crushed.
Oh, you get stepped.
Stepped on, damaged, or crushed. It says, what makes a movie hilarious?
Comedy.
Okay, it could be a comedy. It's the things that the actors do. Have you ever been stunned by something you've seen in nature?
Yes.
Yes, what? Explain.
I've seen his wrong.
So you were stunned?
I
Okay.
was stunned by my brother yesterday.
Stunned by a leaf.
That's stung, not stunned. All right, Christopher.
I got stunned that my brother pushed me to a tree.
Okay.
Stunned, Chris.
Which item in your backpack would you not want to trample on?
My school computer. Exactly.
Yep. Oh, your tackies? There you go, because then it wouldn't be able to be eaten. I said, which item in your backpack would you not want to trample on?
My binder and my pizza.
All right? If a person regretted something, how might he or she feel? Mad, maybe sad, maybe worried,
Maybe vote.
maybe a little bit of both. All right, let's open up our books to page 318. Open up our reading book to page 318, please. We're going to the Beatles.
Yay!
If you don't know who this is, I'm gonna be mad.
318, please.
I will do weird. Page.
Yes. Oh, cool. All right, guys, we need to get through this quietly so we can get through it and get to the science portion.
Great.
318, please. 318. Yes.
It's okay, they were so fabulous.
All right, guys, we need to get quiet so we can get through this. Shouldn't have to wait for you to get quiet multiple times. Go to the beginning. All right, so we're going to be looking at asking and answering questions as we read to help make predictions, clarify things that might seem unclear, and think more deeply about the text. So as we're reading the story, the Beatles were Fab, we're going to do the read for understanding questions like we've been doing. Let's look at the genre first. Shh. Alex, please stop talking. A biography is the story of a real person's life written by somebody other than that person. If it was written by that person about their life, what is it called? If it's written by a person about their life, it's called a what? Huh?
I said I always thought it was just biography.
Nope. A biography is written by somebody else about somebody's life.
I know it, but I don't.
All right, you got till that clock, till we get done with reading to think about it. Whoever figures it out gets a ring pop.
Self-biography?
Nope.
Okay.
All right.
Autobiography.
What?
Autobiography.
Autobiography. You'll get a ring pop this afternoon. All right. Authors of biographies present events in sequential or chronological order. Shh. Authors of biographies may use literary language and devices to present major events in a person's life. Biographies include third-person pronouns such as he, she, him, her, his, hers, they, them, and their. Think about the title and the genre of this text. What do you know about the subject of this biography? What do you want to know? Write your ideas below. Think about the title and the genre of this text. What do you know about the subject of this biography? What do you want to know? Write it down. Yes, I put 8 on there. Alright, so what's something you know about this subject and the here we go. The subject of this biography and what do you want to know? What's something we know? Gabby.
I want to know how they became a band.
Okay, how they became a band? So you do know they're what?
I do know that they were good singers a long time ago from England.
Okay, they were a group of singers from England.
A band.
A band. What else do we know? Anybody else know anything else? If not, that's okay. We'll learn more. What, Alex? They were your grandma's favorite band, then that's something that you know. They must have been good then. If they were your grandma's favorite band, they must have been good. Anybody know any of the names of the band members?
Yes. The most amazing one I know, John Lennon.
John, Paul, Ringo, and Starr. John, Paul, Ringo, and Starr. S-T-A-R. So, As we're reading, I'm going to be asking you questions. So again, the title is The Beatles Were Fab and They Were Funny. Music was everywhere in Liverpool, where John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, oh, I guess I didn't say John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm not from that era. Grew up. Life wasn't easy in that scruffy city in northern England in the 1940s and 50s. But music made things better. John played guitar and harmonica. Paul started out playing trumpet, but traded it for the guitar. George had a guitar too, and could play circles around John and Paul. Ringo was the best drummer in Liverpool. From the time they got together as lads until they became superstars, the Fab Four made music, made history, and made people laugh. How do the illustrations on page 320 and 321 help you to understand who John, Paul, George, and Ringo are as they are described in the text? Let me say that again.
They're playing the instruments that they said they would.
Okay, yep, they're playing the instruments that they said they would, because we got the trumpet, we've got, looks like drums, a harmonica, and he's got a guitar. All right. Where did the Fab Four grow up and when? Nathan? They grew up in Liverpool, a scruffy city in northern England during the 1940s and 1950s. What made life better for them? Music. All right, let's go to the next page. John, Paul, George, and Ringo always had fun together, even when they were trying to name their band. In 1960, they finally decided to call themselves the Beatles. The name made them laugh, and it stuck. So who were the Beatles?
John, Paul, George, Ringo.
George and Ringo. And who were, other than who? Okay, why did they choose to name the Beatles? Because it was funny. It just kind of stuck. All right, next, what do you notice in the illustration that connects to the text?
On the drum, there's a bunch of names.
On the drum, there's a bunch of names. The Blackjacks, the Quarrymen, Johnny and the Moon Dogs, the Nurk Twins, the Beat Alls, the Silver Beatles, the Rainbows, Long John Silver and the Piece of Eight, Long John and the Beatles, and then the Beatles. In their early days, the Beatles performed for hours and hours in hundreds and hundreds of shows around England and Germany. It was exhausting and paid next to nothing. Anxious to have a record of their very own, the Beatles were afraid and the band was going nowhere. They used silliness to help keep their spirits up. John would shout, "Where are we going, lads?" "To the top, Johnny." "And where is that?" "The topmost of the poppermost," the others would yell, and they went on with the show. Oh, sorry. When they got a new producer in 1962, the Beatles tried hard to make a good impression. But it wasn't easy. During a recording session, the producer listed the many things he didn't like about the music, then said politely, "Let me know if there's anything you don't like." A painful silence. George tried to lighten the mood. Well, for a start, I don't like your tie. The producer laughed, but he still had the Beatles sing their song 17 times in a row. It was midnight before he thought it sounded right. The lads had their first record, Love Me Do, a song Paul had written 4 years earlier when he was 16. What do you learn about the Beatles' desire to reach their goal?
They keep a good mood.
They did what?
They play their song 17 times.
Okay.
And they keep a good mood no matter what.
They try to keep a good mood. How did humor help the band get through the difficult time? Because they kept the humor
By cheering everyone up.
by cheering everyone up. All right, once the bouncy tune got on the radio, people started listening. Months later, the Beatles' second record, Please Me, hit #1 on the chart in England. The band began on English TV, singing, joking, and shaking their mop-top hair and having a blast. The songs were fantastic, but the lads themselves were so cool, so funny, so fab, short for fabulous. The reporters started calling them the Fab Four. The first Beatles fan club started with 35 members and grew to 40,000 within a year. Fans sent their heroes love letters, stuffed animals, and their favorite English candies, squishy jelly babies. It was the birth of something new, Beatlemania. No one had seen or heard a band quite like the Beatles before. Fans followed them everywhere. The lads became clever at escaping crowds, although sometimes they needed help. Once a police officer slung Ringo over his shoulder to get him to safety. The fans wanted more, so John and Paul wrote songs as fast as they could, meeting over tea and cornflakes. As certain words popped up in hit after hit, they began to consider themselves lucky. Me, please, love, and especially you. When they wrote She Loves You, Paul's father begged them to change its yeah, yeah, yeah line to a more proper yes, yes, yes. But Paul laughed the idea off with a no, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah was soon heard around the world. And She Loves You became the first Beatles record to sell 1 million copies. The Beatles were no longer playing in small, seedy clubs. They were even invited to perform for a formal audience that included the British royal family. How should they act? Could the Fab Four still be silly in front of royalty? Before Twist and Shout, their final song, John invited the main floor audience to clap along. Then he peered up at the dignified royal family in the box seats. And the rest of you, if you just rattle your jewelry, everyone giggled, even the Queen Mother. Fame came upon them so quickly that the Beatles still couldn't believe it when they heard themselves on the radio. Whenever a Beatles song was scheduled to air, they would stop whatever they were doing, even driving, to listen to the radio with delight. One night in 1964, their manager burst into their hotel room at 3 a.m., waving a telegram from New York in their sleepy faces. Their newest song, I Wanna Hold Your Hand, had hit #1 in America. The lads stayed awake for hours, stunned that Beatlemania had crossed the Atlantic Ocean. But John still had to joke. He liked to call the song, I Want to Hold Your Nose. How did the Beatles react to their sudden fame?
Kind of calm about it.
Were they calm about it?
They were excited.
They were excited. They couldn't go back to sleep. They stayed awake for hours. They were stunned. All right, page 328. The next month, the Fab Four flew to New York, arriving at John F. Kennedy Airport to the sound of 3,000 fans singing, "We love you, Beatles. Oh, yes, we do." 2 days after crossing the Atlantic, they made their first American TV appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. 328. By then, the Beatles had played together more than 1,000 times. Their performance was as polished as could be, and this turned out to be the most watched TV show in history. How many times had the Beatles played together before they appeared on American TV show, The Ed Sullivan Show? More than 1,000. What was remarkable about the appearance? What was remarkable about it?
They were polished.
What?
Polished.
Okay. Remarkable means what was something that was amazing about it?
Everyone loved them.
Yeah. But what specifically about them on that TV show? Look at that last sentence. It was the most watched TV show in history. Even when the massive audience in America made them nervous, the Beatles didn't show it. All the screaming of the fans was music to their ears, a sign that everyone was having a good time. George said, "We like screams, so scream louder and louder." They were now big stars riding around together in the limousines. Yet the Beatles had as much silly fun as they had as boys in Liverpool. Paul said, "There were just 4 of us in the back of that car, laughing hysterically." Laughter was their way of dealing with their sudden fame. They joked about everything, but they soon regretted joking about their favorite candy. Soft English Jelly Bellies couldn't be bought in America, so fans started stocking up on jelly beans. They threw jelly beans at the stage during concerts as a way of showing their love. Ouch! Jelly beans were much harder than squishy jelly babies. John had an idea. Just eat them. Why did the Beatles regret making jokes about English Jelly Babies candy? Charles?
You can't buy them in America.
You can't buy them in America.
When they get thrown at you, they hurt, I guess.
Well, the Jelly Babies are the soft ones, but the people in America were throwing what at them? Jelly beans, and they were hard candy. They hurt. What was John's solution to this problem? He thought the fans should eat the jelly beans rather than throw them and hurt the band members. The Beatlemania roller coaster reached dizzying heights during the 1964 tour. Fans screamed in the Hollywood Bowl, an outdoor stage under the stars. In Denver's Red Rock Amphitheater, the music echoed off the cliffs of red and orange. In Philadelphia's Convention Hall, in a city filled with history, at the Indiana State Fair, amid the sounds and smell of farm animals, and in the 19 more cities from San Francisco to New York. Beatlemania was so intense that the screaming of the fans often drowned out the songs. The lads found it hilarious that the less their music could be heard, the more popular they became and the more money they were paid. Anything they touched, Alex, you shouldn't be getting up and your mask is still not on your face. Anything they touched went on sale to fans. Even the hotel sheets they slept on were cut into tiny squares and sold as souvenirs. Excited fans didn't just miss hearing the music. Sometimes people were so starstruck they didn't hear anything the Beatles said at all. John once tested this by telling a distracted restaurant waiter, "I'd like a steak, medium," and 2 elephants came and a policeman bit my head off. "And a cup of tea, please." Reporters interviewed the band constantly. The Fab Four often thought the questions were silly, and they loved to give silly answers. According to the text, what American cities did the Beatles play in during the 1964 tour? Denver, Philadelphia, Indiana, San Francisco, New York, Hollywood, and 19 other cities. How does the illustration relate to the text?
It shows a bunch of places they've been on.
Yeah, a bunch of stickers of where they've been. You have DC, you have Hollywood, you have Toronto, you have Chicago, New York, Houston, San Francisco,
LA,
Atlanta.
Denver.
Yep. All right. Every fan has a favorite Beatle. John was often called the smart one. Which one are you? John? Eric. Some people think your haircuts are un-American. John said, well, it was very observant of them because we aren't American, actually. How do you find all this business of having screaming girls following you all over the place? George answered, well, we feel flattered. John says, and flattened. Do you go to the barber at all? Paul, just to keep it trimmed, but sometimes we do it ourselves, you know. John said, with our feet. Baby-faced Paul was a cute Beatle. What's your favorite sport? Paul said, sleeping. Is your hair real? Paul said, is yours? You Beatles have conquered 5 continents. What do you want to do next? Paul said, conquer 6. And then, will you ever stop being Beatles? Paul said, we are the Beatles. That's what we are. What do you notice about page 332 and 333? What do you notice about 332 and pages 333?
Q&As.
It's a kind of a Q&A. It's kind of an interview, and it's a different type of conversation bubbles, is what they call them. How is the portion of the story different from the rest of the story? How is this portion of the story different from the rest of the story? This one is questions, and the other one was the part of the story. How do the graphic elements help you to enjoy the story? How do the graphic elements help you to enjoy the story?
We can see what they were doing and where they were going, how much fun they were having.
Mm-hmm.
They
What
showed it.
What does Paul's answer, conquer 6, mean? What? If they conquered 5, What does he mean by when he says conquered 6? What does he want to do?
He's a legend in 5 continents.
Yeah, they performed in 5 continents, so now he wants to visit another, and then that would make them conquer 6.
I just actually know one.
What time will we get the laptops? Or iPads?
Not till later.
After PE?
No. After PE, you go home. Younger and a bit shyer, George was sometimes the quiet beetle. What do you call your hairstyle? George says Arthur, excuse me. What do you do when you're cooped up in a hotel room? George says, we ice skate. It's weird. If one of you stopped being a beetle, what do you think you do? George said, I think I'd train elephants in the zoo. What do you do with all the money that you make? George says, I'm going to change all mine into cents, fill up a room, and dive in it. Nothing rattled Ringo, even rude questions about his large nose. What do you think of Beethoven? Ringo says, great, especially his poems. How many of you are bald that you have to wear those wigs? Ringo says, all of us. How did you find America? Ringo says, we went to Greenland and made a left turn. What do you notice about George's answers to the question?
They're sarcastic.
Okay, they're sarcastic. They're funny, they're silly, just like the rest of the band. How do the illustrations help you to understand which beetle is which?
The on top.
Okay? The illustrations show the beetles who's described at the top of each page. Every description, every page focuses on one specific member of the band. When Ringo was asked how he found America, why was his remark so funny?
Because it's far away, and he just said I went to Greenland and took a left turn.
Yeah, that's not how they traveled there.
No.
It's a very sarcastic saying. All right, page 336. The Beatles' 1965 American tour opened with the biggest live concert in history so far. A happy crowd of 55,600 fans welcomed them to Shea Stadium in New York. The band helicopter landed nearby as they watched thousands of flash bulbs light up the sky. This was surely the toppermost, and yet, with the wall of screams, nothing else could be heard. Not the music, not even the jets taking off from 2 nearby airports. This struck even the jets taking off. Wait, I just read that. This struck the Beatles as so ridiculous that they could do nothing but laugh. But they soon stopped joking and worried about the crowd getting out of control. Later, a reporter asked, where would you like to go that you hadn't gone yet? John said, home. What was remarkable about the band in 1965's tour in America?
It was the biggest one.
Yes, Alex. Not right now. It was the biggest one. 4 years after Love Me Do, Beatlemania had driven from wild all over the world, but the Fab Four were forgetting how to laugh. Concerts had bigger problems than jelly beans flying through the air. Now the lads were in danger of being trampled by excited fans. At the same time, As they wrote songs that dug deeper into the meaning of life and love, their music was becoming too complicated to perform live. During their last major concert at Candlestick Park in San Francisco, the fans huddled together on a chilly night. No one quite realized it, but Beatlemania was coming to an end. How long did Beatlemania last, and why was it coming to an end?
It lasted 4 years.
4 years, and why was it coming to an end?
Because it was too hectic. They were kind of scared.
Yeah, it was getting a little out of control. Where was the Beatles' last major concert? San Francisco at Candlestick Park. And then next page. But it was far from the end of the Beatles and their fun-filled romp. The band retreated to the recording studio where they could hear the music again and continue to make each other laugh. Nothing was quite the same after Beatlemania. Other British bands became popular, but the witty wordplay of the Fab Four put them in a class of their own. They were trendsetters. Everyone wanted haircuts like theirs, and everyone wanted to dress like they did. But most important, they're considered by many to be the greatest rock and roll band of all time, constantly adapting their own music in an extraordinary display of style and subjects. The Beatles changed music forever. John, Paul, George, and Ringo recorded more than 200 songs together. For decades after, their music would inspire people to sing along, dance, love, remember, cry, think, imagine, and laugh. Why are the Beatles considered to be one of the greatest bands of all time?
Because they were the only band in the
No, they're not the only band of all time.
Because they were great.
Because they were a great band. What else?
They practiced a lot. They were funny and
They were witty,
they had a good attitude.
had a good attitude,
They sang
they sounded good. They changed music by continuing to adapt their music to very unique subjects.
They inspired people.
They inspired people with the way they dressed and their hairstyles and how they acted. They recorded over 200 songs.
Wow.
All right. So I am going to try to get this next thing set up. Give me a second while I get it together. Okay. I need to change to different source. Oh wait, I have to go to okay. So I get this to work. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing here.
We still need to review our vocab later on this week, right?
What, buddy?
On Thursday, are we gonna write down our vocab on the call?
Probably yes.
Okay.
Okay, let me turn this one around. Gotta get it facing the right direction. Oh, come on. Stay. Oh, 1 second. Alright. Pause this for a a second.